Good morning. It's 10 o'clock, Tuesday, January the 13th, 2026. And I would like to call to order the Tennessee Board, Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board meeting. As we begin this meeting, I would like to bring to your attention, there's a sign-in sheet on the table by the door. For anyone who would like to make comments about the agenda items that's presented today, please indicate by your name. Public comments will be accepted by the end of the board meeting. At this time, Ms. Bohannon, if I can get you to call the roll.
Tim Wheeler,
Here.
Don Haynes,
Here.
Tracy Allen, here. Randy Nash,
Here.
Scotty Porsche, Chris Lee,
Here.
Wendell Naylor.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, if I can get a motion to accept today's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Lee and second by Mr. Nash. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, as same. Motion carried. At this time, we'll move to the public rulemaking hearing.
Good morning, everyone. This rulemaking hearing is called to order. My name is Troy Bryant. I serve as a staff attorney in the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, Division of Regulatory Boards. Would the agency representatives who are present introduce themselves for the record?
Wendell Naylor, President.
Randy Nash, Vice President.
Tim Wheeler, board member.
Tracy Allen, board member.
Chris Lee, board member.
It is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. This rulemaking hearing is taking place pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 4-5-204 in Conference Room 1B of the Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee, and is available by electronic means, which can be located on the board's website at www.tn.gov/commerce/regboards/funeral/meetings.html. On this page, the link for access to this rulemaking hearing can be found in the chart located in the middle of the web page in the first row with the date 1/13/2026 in the event/agenda/minutes column with a hyperlink titled Watch under the board meeting heading. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit comments on proposed rules the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, Regulatory Boards Division, Tennessee Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers have made public. The proposed rules involve fee increases for initial applications, apprenticeship registrations, licensing fees, and renewals for funeral establishments, funeral directors, and embalmers. The proposed rules also increase fees for re-inspections, change of location, database updates, removal service applications, document reviews, and reciprocal licenses. A rule is defined as an agency statement of general applicability that implements or prescribes law or policy or describes the procedures or practice requirements of the agency. Proposed rules are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State, notice is given to the public for comment, and a rulemaking hearing is held. Upon conclusion of the hearing and adoption of the proposed rules, the rules are forwarded to the Attorney General's office for review of legality. If approved, they are filed with the Secretary of State, which is responsible for publication, and the Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules must stay in the Secretary of State's office for 90 days, the end of which time will be the effective date. Those members of the public wishing to speak and appearing in person should place their name on the sign-in sheet on the table over my back right shoulder. I do believe that there is an additional sign-in sheet, one for attendance, one for public comment. Just make sure if you plan to speak, you have your name on both of those. Those members of the public wishing to speak and appearing via online should put their name in the chat box. Oral comments will only be accepted by those who have written their name on the sign-in sheet and typed their name in the chat box. Those are the only individuals that will be permitted to speak. Is there anyone else that desires to offer oral comments but who have not written their name on the sign-in sheet or typed their name in the chat box? Seeing that there are none, for those attending this hearing in person, I would call your attention again to the table over my right shoulder. On this table, you will find red line copies of the rule amendments addressed in today's rulemaking hearing. For those attending online, you will find a link in the chat box to the redline copies of the rule amendments for today's rulemaking hearing. The notice of rulemaking hearing included the entire text of the proposed rules and was published on the Tennessee Administrative Register website on November 14th, 2025. Mr. Gribble, what additional notice was given to the affected individuals or groups?
Notification was given to the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association in an email on November 7, 2025, to the Tennessee State Funeral Director and Morticians Association, representative of them on November 7, 2025. Also, it was published on the department's, the funeral board's website as well. And any individual who had requested to receive information regarding the board also would have received notification of that.
So as the agency hears public comments on the proposed rules, I, as moderator, reserve the right to limit such comments if they become repetitive. So please limit your comments accordingly. I will read the substance of the proposed rules into the record. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.01 Student and Apprentice Registration raises the fee for registration as a student, apprentice funeral director, and apprentice embalmer from $50 to $100. The proposed rule also removes outdated authority citation. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.02 Applicants for licenses raises the application fee for funeral establishments from $575 to $1,150. The proposed rule also removes outdated authority citation. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-3-.03 licenses raises the application fee for funeral directors and embalmers from $235 to $375. The proposed rule also removes outdated authority citation. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.04 renewals raises the renewal fee for funeral director and embalmers from $235 to $375 and raises the late fee from $200 to $250. Additionally, the proposed rule raises the renewal fee for funeral establishments from $575 to $1,150 and raises the late fee from $200 to $250. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.05 reciprocal licenses raises the application fee for a reciprocal funeral director or embalmer's license from $435 to $575. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.07 re-inspections raises the fee for re-inspections from $200 to $350. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.09 change of location raises the fee of a change of location application from $575 to $750. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.10 database update raises the fee of a database update from $60 to $100. Excuse me. 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.11 removal service fees raises the fee of application for registration as a removal service from $350 to $625 and raises the fee for renewal of a removal service registration from $250 to $425. And finally, 10 Comp R and Regs 0660-03-.12 document review raises the fee for submission of any cremation authorization form not furnished by the board from $100 to $200. Before I take public comment, I will read comments that I have received via email prior to this hearing.
Council, I need to correct that. I said November the 7th. The correct date that the notification went to Tennessee Funeral Directors Association was November 18. And also the Tennessee State Funeral Director and Mortician Association was November 18. And then the e-notify that went to the individuals who were to receive updates from the board was sent on November 19. And it was published on the board's website on November 24, 2025. Apologize for the earlier date.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gribble, for that update. So again, prior to taking public comment, I will read comments that I've received via email prior to this hearing. To date, I have received one written comment. This is a letter from the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association dated December 16th, 2025, received in my email on December 30th, 2025. And I will read the substance of that letter into the record. On behalf of the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association, TFDA, thank you and the other volunteer members of the state board for supporting the funeral and cemetery industry. The guidance provided by all involved, including Governor Lee, Commissioner Lawrence, Director Gribble, members of the board, and countless staff, is absolutely appreciated. Today, we write you because of the concern of the members of the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association and the proposed increase in licensing fees. As you know, TFDA represents funeral service professionals across Tennessee who are dedicated to serving families during their most difficult times with dignity, compassion, and professionalism. While we understand that regulatory bodies must maintain adequate funding to fulfill their oversight responsibilities, we believe the proposed fee increases are excessive and would place an undue financial burden on funeral service providers throughout our state. Under the heading of magnitude of proposed fee increases, the proposed rule amendments include dramatic fee increases across virtually every category of licensure and registration. Funeral establishment application initial licensure from $575 to $1,150 as a 100% increase. Funeral establishment biennial review from $575 to $1,150, a 100% increase. Funeral director license from $235 to $375, a 59.6% increase. Embalmer license from $235 to $375, a 59.6% increase. Apprentice registrations from $50 to $100, a 100% increase. Removal service application from $350 to $625, a 78.6% increase. Removal service review from $250 to $425, a 70% increase. Reinspection fee from $200 to $350, a 75% increase. Under the heading of impact on Tennessee's funeral service profession, these provided increases would have far-reaching negative consequences. Disproportionate impact on small and independent funeral homes. The doubling of establishment fees would significantly burden small and independent funeral homes, which comprise a substantial portion of funeral service providers in Tennessee. Many of these establishments operate on modest margins while providing essential services to their communities, particularly in rural areas where access to funeral services is already limited. A 100% $575 increase in biennial renewal fees represents a substantial operating cost that will strain already tight budgets. Cumulative financial burden for a typical funeral establishment with licensed funeral directors and embalmers. The cumulative impact of these increases could exceed several $1,000s per renewal cycle. Potential impact on consumer costs. While funeral service providers strive to absorb operational cost increases whenever possible, regulatory fee increases of this magnitude may ultimately necessitate adjustments to service pricing, thereby affecting the families we serve during already difficult financial times. Therefore, the TFDA Board of Directors formally expresses our strong opposition to the proposed amendments to Chapter 0660-03 that increases fees for funeral directors, embalmers, and funeral establishment licenses. Before implementing fee increases of this magnitude, we respectfully request that the board give consideration of alternative, more modest fee structures that could meet the board's funding needs while minimizing the burden on licensees. One which might include a multi-year increase such that licensees might be able to plan over several years how to pay their increasing fees. TFTA is committed to working collaboratively with the board to ensure effective regulation of our profession while maintaining the financial viability of funeral service providers across Tennessee. We respectfully request the opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue regarding these proposed amendments and to explore alternative solutions that might address the board's funding needs without imposing excessive burdens on licensees. We plan to attend the January 13th, 2026 public hearing and will welcome the opportunity to meet with you and other board members prior to that date to discuss our concerns in detail. We are prepared to work constructively toward a solution that serves the interests of both regulatory oversight and funeral service profession. Thank you for your consideration of our position. We look forward to your response and to continued collaboration with the board. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Greg Rush. And now that the substance of that written comment has been read into the record, I would just ask for the funeral board to respond to that on the record, please.
It's kind of new to me. So we have gone through this. And so we're at this point now to where we got to make a decision. I understand the fees because me being a licensed person, me managing a location, I understand the fees. I understand the shortfall. Me being managing the location, we have to deal with shortfalls. We have to make increases. And so at this time, we feel that these increases as a board that we have discussed are something that we have to put in place in order to be able to maintain this board.
The one comment I would like to make is to go back for the past 20+ years. We've had no fee increases with this board on our licensing of both establishments and funeral directors and embalmers apprentices. In fact, there's been 2 decreases. And to be honest with you, this time, day and age, to have 2 decreases for 20+ years is quite unbelievable. Whereas we have seen our funeral services go up in pricing, both for staff, merchandise, and everything has this, especially just the last 2 years. So to have this type of increase, for those of us who understand this board must operate with the reserve. It is required by state law. So therefore, the reason we came up with these prices was we felt this would sustain this board because we had recommendations from the state that it would even be more than what we are presently proposing. And this is where the board came to an agreement. We felt this would make us sustainable. So that's one thing I want to emphasize. We've not had an increase in fees in 20+ years, and that's quite unbelievable. And I think if you look at the other regulatory boards in the state of Tennessee, you'll find they've not had that.
Same on this end. A lot of folks I don't think know that Mr. Wheeler brought up, we had even a higher fee increase come presented to us, I think maybe back in the fall, and we as a board fought that to find a happy medium. He's already explained about the fee decreases. We provide our licenses for our employees. We're blessed enough to do that, and we understand that there's some young, new funeral directors and embalmers that, would take a whole paycheck to renew their license. But we as a board, when this was presented to us, tried to fight for us as well as accommodate what the state needs to fund this board. So that's kind of where we're at now.
This is something we've been working on now for several months, it seems like. And as a business owner and as a funeral director for right at 20 years, I don't think that anybody likes to have to raise prices for any reason. Certainly we don't want to cause any undue burden on people. But the situation is this, that we're in a point where we have to. And unfortunately, the 2 decreases have in a way brought us to this point. And in order for the board to be financially responsible and financially stable, and in order for us to statutorily remain having a board of funeral directors and embalmers, we have to be able to, it has to be financially supported. The simple thing is without fees and without money, this board could not exist. Could not exist, and none of us want that to happen. And as my colleagues echoed, we were initially presented much higher fees and have gotten to where we're at now, which is still an increase, but not as substantial as it was originally. And I appreciate the response of the TFDA, and appreciate what they do for our licensees. And I thank them for sending that to us.
I have to agree with the rest of the board. To go a long time without any fee increase is rare. And I'm not sure that everyone out in the profession realizes that this is a self-sustaining board. We don't receive any tax revenue or any funding from the state. We're it. We have to operate on what we can get in renewals and fees and fines. So I support the amendment.
And just to add to Mr. Haynes, just to clarify, the fees we collect pay for the staff of the Tennessee Funeral Director and Embalmers Board, our executive director, our legal counsel, our call center, our inspectors. We pay for everything, their benefits, their health care, their salaries, any pay increases, stuff like that. And as we all know, healthcare has gone sky high. I work for an establishment that pays for our health care. And this year we had a 17% increase. So when I vote on something like this, I'm voting for my boss's pocketbook, which will affect him, because if I vote for an increase, he's the one that's going to pay it. I'm fortunate enough to work for an establishment that pays for our licenses. But I've also worked for other establishments that I was responsible to pay my own fees when the renewal came due. So I have seen both sides, and I understand about a fee increase, but this board has a fiduciary duty to the citizens of this state to maintain itself and to keep the reserves as what it's supposed to be by law. And I think that is what we're held or behooving to, that we should do this. I appreciate TFDA's letter. I understand probably being a manager of a smaller establishment, what it is on a fee increase, but at the same time, we do have a responsibility to the citizens of this state to represent them and keep this board like it is supposed to be by statute.
Mr. Bryant?
Thank you, board members, for your response. Mr. Gribble, were any additional written comments received regarding these rules?
Not to me.
And that letter was the extent of the written comments that I received. Are there any public comments from those present at today's meeting, either in person or in the online chat box?
There are none in the chat box, but there is one person present. Brent McNeely.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Gribble. Thank you, board. I'm fortunate enough to know most of you here. Mr. Naylor, I don't think we've had the opportunity to meet. I know Ms. Tracy, and so thank you all for what you do. I serve two roles here today. I am the co-chair of the TFDA Governmental Affairs Committee, along with Chairman Jeffers, and we are representing the Tennessee Funeral Directors Association. So we understand how price increases work. We understand how everything is going up. As Mr. Wheeler brought up about health insurance, I get that. I'm in the ownership side of our small funeral home there in East Tennessee in La Follette, and we are not opposed to an increase. Please understand that. this board as a whole, Mr. Gribble, and our association have worked so good together over the years. It's truly been a partnership, as each and every one of you know, but we are not opposed to an increase. We just respectfully ask that it not be such a harsh increase at one time, maybe even a phase in over the next couple of years or so. But if you look at dollar figure aside, if you look at the percentages, major increase, 100% establishment license, 60%, give or take there on funeral director license renewals and things. Like I said, we are not opposed to an increase. We understand. We just ask that look at a more favorable number for our membership. So secondly, I'm a small town, independent, family-owned funeral director. It's my mother and I. This profession has given me everything. The profession has been harsh to me as well. We've lost a couple family members. A lot of you here knew those folks. So this is a humble beg to respectfully, please reconsider this high of amount of an increase. Thank you so much.
And board members, if just as with the previous one, if you could please, any response to that on the record.
We want to thank you for your response to us and everything. We have went through this early on in the year, and we wish you would have been here then to maybe give us some insight on staggering it, basically what you're looking at doing. And that would have been something that we could have took back to the state. But at this point now, we have to move forward with what we got going on. But we do appreciate you coming today. Mr. Brown.
Yes. Thank you, board members, for your comments, or your response to the comment. So as that appears to be the only individual signed up to make public comment in person, just would like to afford a final opportunity in case anyone came in late or wanted to make a comment but have not signed in on that sheet. And seeing that there are none, let's see, let me make sure I didn't skip a step here. Okay. Lastly, there are several measures I will need to adopt by motion and roll call vote as required by TCA Section 4-5-222. First, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rules. We will start with 0660-03-.01 related to student and apprentice registration.
Board members, I can get a motion.
I make the motion we accept.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Lee. Ready to vote? Ms. Bohanna?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes.
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, a motion to adopt the hearing language as amended in the proposed rules for Rule 0660-03-.02 related to applicants for licenses.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Haynes and second by Mr. Lee. Ready to vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes, Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
No.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I'll need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rules for 0660-03-.03 related to licenses.
I make the motion we accept.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Haynes. Ms. Bohannon, can we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
Mr. President, the motion passes.
Next, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rules for 0660-03-.04 related to renewals.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Wheeler. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I'll need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule for 0660-03-.05 related to reciprocal licenses.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Lee, second by Mr. Wheeler. Ms. Bohannon, can we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule for 0660-03-.07 related to re-inspections.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Wheeler. Ms. Bohannon, we can get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule for 0660-03-.09 related to change of location.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Haynes, second by Ms. Allen. Ms. Bohannon, if we can get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule for 0660-03-.10 related to database update.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Lee, second by Mr. Nash. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I'll need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule 0660-03-.11 related to removal service fees.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Nash. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
excuse me, Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
And finally, I will need a motion to adopt the hearing rule language as amended in the proposed rule for 0660-03-.12 related to document review.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Ms. Allen. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote?
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes,
Aye.
Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Next, I will read the regulatory flexibility addendum. Pursuant to TCA sections 4-5, 401 through 4-5, 404, prior to initiating the rulemaking process, all agencies shall conduct a review of whether a proposed rule or rules affect small businesses. The proposed amendments do not impart any additional reporting requirements or additional deadline requirements for small businesses. Likewise, there are not known less burdensome, less intrusive, or less costly alternative methods to achieving the purpose of these rules. These rules do not create additional requirements for any licensee outside of the increase in fees that are necessary for this board to maintain self-sufficiency. I will now need a motion to adopt the regulatory flexibility addendum.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Wheeler, second by Mr. Haynes. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote.
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes, Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
I will now read the impact on local government statement pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-228. There is no foreseen impact on any local governments. I will now need a motion to adopt the impact on local government statement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash and second by Mr. Wheeler. Ms. Bohannon, we get a roll call vote.
Tim Wheeler,
Aye.
Don Haynes, Tracy Allen,
Aye.
excuse me, Randy Nash,
Aye.
Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
And included in your package should be a copy of the additional information required by the Joint Government Operations Committee. All agencies upon filing a rule must also submit the following pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-226I1. I will read through this information. And if you have any questions or concerns with the information contained therein, please let me know. And if there are none at the end, would require a motion to adopt the responsive information. So I will now read the answers to the questions required by the Joint Government Operations Committee. All agencies upon filing a rule must also submit the following pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-226I1. A brief summary of the rule and a description of all relevant changes and previous regulations effectuated by such rule. The Commissioner of the Department of Commerce and Insurance, Tennessee Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers, intends to propose rule amendments involving the increase of fees for initial applications, apprenticeship registrations, licensing fees, and renewals for funeral establishments, funeral directors, and embalmers. The rules also increase fees for re-inspections, change of location, database updates, removal service applications, document reviews, and reciprocal licenses. B, a citation to and brief description of any federal law or regulation or any state law or regulation mandating promulgation of such rule or establishing guidelines relevant thereto. There are no known federal or state laws or regulation mandating the promulgation of these amendments other than the statutory requirement requiring that this board remain self-sufficient. C, identification of persons, organizations, corporations, or governmental entities most directly affected by this rule, and whether those persons, organizations, corporations, or governmental entities urge adoption or rejection of this rule. The rule amendments affect current and future licensees as well as applicants. The board anticipates that some licensees may oppose these proposed amendments due to the increased cost of licensure. However, these rules are necessary for the board to maintain self-sufficiency, particularly since fees have not increased since 2002. D, identification of any opinions of the Attorney General and reporter or any judicial ruling that directly relates to the rule or the necessity to promulgate the rule. There are no known opinions of the Attorney General or any judicial ruling that directly relates to the rule or necessitates the promulgation of these rules. E, an estimate of the probable increase or decrease in state and local government revenues and expenditures, if any, resulting from the promulgation of this rule, and assumptions and reasoning upon which the estimate is based. An agency shall not state that the fiscal impact is minimal if the fiscal impact is more than 2% of the agency's annual budget or $500,000, whichever is less. It is estimated that these rules will increase revenue by $458,320 in even years and $377,725 in odd years. These rules will raise revenue through assessing higher licensing fees. The purpose of raising this revenue is so that the board may ensure self-sufficiency. The Tennessee Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers issues licenses on a biennial, every 2-year basis, with more licensees renewing in even-numbered fiscal years. Over 93% of the board's operating revenue is gleaned from licensing fees, with the remaining 7% received through penalties assessed through the complaint process. Historically, due to a larger number of license expirations in even-numbered years, the board typically operated at a surplus in even-numbered years and a deficit in odd-numbered years. However, this has not been the case in recent fiscal years. Funeral establishments, licensed funeral directors, and licensed embalmers make up the board's highest licensing fee. The board has operated at a deficit each of the last 3 fiscal years, with deficits of $206,714, $26,947, and approximately $337,077 in fiscal year 23, fiscal year 24, and fiscal year 25, respectively. Over the same period, the funeral board's reserve balance has decreased from $1,125,381 at the end of fiscal year 22 to $761,357. The board's reserve balance is now less than 1 year of annual expenditures in opposition to the self-sufficiency statute. The size of the board staff has remained the same, but personnel costs have increased, which has impacted the board's expenses for inspections, investigations, and legal costs. The funeral board's expenditures have increased by 44% since fiscal year 21 and projects that expenditures will increase by an additional 9.5% by the end of fiscal year 28. F, identification of the appropriate agency representative or representatives possessing substantial knowledge and understanding of the rule. Troy Bryant, Associate General Counsel for the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board. Robert Gribble, Executive Director of the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board. G, identification of the appropriate agency representative or representatives who will explain the rule at a scheduled meeting of the committees. Troy Bryant, Associate General Counsel for the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board. Robert Gribble, Executive Director of the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board. The office address, telephone number, and agency of the representative or representatives who explain the rule at a scheduled meeting of the committees. Again, that is Troy Bryant, Associate General Counsel for the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board, and Robert Gribble, the Executive Director of the Tennessee Funeral Directors and Embalmers Board. I, any additional information relevant to the proposed rule for continuation that the committee requests. There is no known additional relevant information. So having read through the questions required by the Joint Government Operations Committee pursuant to TCA Section 4-5-226I1, I would ask for a motion to adopt the responsive information provided there are no specific questions or concerns.
We can get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Haynes. Ms. Bohanna, we get a roll call vote.
Tim Wheeler, Don Haynes, Tracy Allen,
Aye.
Randy Nash, Chris Lee,
Aye.
Wendell Naylor.
Aye.
The motion passes.
That concludes this rulemaking hearing. Following this hearing, the rules will be put on a rulemaking filing form SS 7039, submitted to the Governor's Office for final review, and then submitted to the Attorney General's office for review and approval. Once the Attorney General's signature is obtained, that document is then filed with the Secretary of State and generally becomes effective 90 days from the date of filing after receiving a positive recommendation from the Joint Operations Committee. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Do want to take a little recess?
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. And I
Okay.
can settle up with the court reporter.
Ms. Bohanna? Okay, we're back. Next, it shows that approval of the minutes for December. We're going to do that in February. So, Mr. Bryant, we're going to move on into the legal report.
And good morning again, board members. I heard a lot from your attorney this morning. For that, I apologize. So first complaint is complaint number 2025-065291. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on October 21st, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. An employee of respondent establishment permitted their embalmer's license to expire on August 31st, 2025, and did not meet the requirements to be reinstated until September 8th, 2025. During the unlicensed period from September 1st through September 7th, the employee was listed as the embalmer on 2 death certificates. Respondent stated that the matter has been addressed and they have implemented procedures to make sure all licenses renew on time. Based on the above, we'd recommend a $500 civil penalty authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
Any questions?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Wheeler, that we accept legal recommendation. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, as the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-065301. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on October 21st, 2025. During the course of the routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. Respondent in this case is the employee from the preceding complaint. Again, just as a reminder, the respondent permitted their embalmer's license to expire on August 31st, 2025. Did not meet the requirements to be reinstated until September 8th, 2025, and during that unlicensed period was listed as the embalmer on 2 death certificates. Respondent stated they had a lapse in time and thought they had fixed the reminder to be a month ahead. Respondent stated they did not do this with malicious intent. Based on the above, would recommend a $250 civil penalty authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Lee, second by Ms. Allen, that we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, as the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-067331. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on November 6th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. Respondent's website listed direct cremation for $1,395, while the general price list listed direct cremation for $1,095. Respondent stated this was a clerical error where the website erroneously listed the wrong values and was corrected immediately. Based on the above, we'd recommend a $500 civil penalty authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
Motion to approve council recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Haynes, second by Mr. Wheeler, that we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Opposed, as the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-067361. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on November 6th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. An employee for respondent establishment allowed their embalmer's license to expire on September 30th, 2025, and did not meet the requirements for reinstatement until October 14th, 2025. During the unlicensed period, the employee served in the capacity of a licensed embalmer for one decedent. Respondent replied stating that listing the employee as the embalmer for the one decedent was a clerical error and that the employee did not actually embalm the decedent, but that the employee's information had only been erroneously included as the embalmer. Respondent stated that the employee had provided information of 2 other embalmers who could replace him while his license was expired. Respondent attached a text communication dated October 2nd, the date of the contract for the identified decedent, asking another embalmer whether they could embalm the decedent, and the embalmer responding in the affirmative. Based on the above, the evidence supports that the employee with the expired embalmer's license did not perform the embalming for the one decedent. However, during the course of the inspection, respondent establishment failed to provide the embalming license of the individual who did perform the embalming when it was requested. Respondent provided a copy of this license in their response. Likewise, respondent admits they made a clerical error, erroneously identifying the unlicensed individual as the embalmer. Based on the above, we'd recommend a letter of warning.
Motion to approve council recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nash, second by Ms. Allen, that we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Opposed, as the same. Motion's carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-067381. This case was administratively open following a routine inspection conducted on November 6th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. Respondent is the employee from the preceding complaint who did permit their license, Embalmer's license, to expire on September 30th, 2025, did not meet the requirements to be reinstated until October 14th. However, respondent reiterated their response from the previous complaint, which again supports the evidence supports that respondent did not actually embalm the decedent during that unlicensed period. Based on the above, we'd recommend closure.
Motion to approve council recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Lee, that we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025070731. This case was administratively open following a routine inspection conducted on November 25th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. Respondent, excuse me, respondent, an apprentice funeral director, had signed on 5 authorization for cremation forms, signing as the witness as a licensed funeral director. Respondent replied stating that the forms with his signature are accurate and that they were informed by their managers that they were allowed to sign the authorization forms since they were the ones who met with the families, and, quote, that the paperwork was just for the funeral home and crematory records, end quote. Based on the above, we'd recommend a $500 civil penalty authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm in line.
Sorry. So the complaint was open for the apprentice. Why wouldn't we open a complaint against the sponsoring funeral director and or the establishment?
So I am unsure if one has been opened. Not to get you all in the weeds of the complaint process, but it is possible that if one was opened on the establishment, but they did not respond within the time required, it gets delayed before it gets to me. I've asked our processors on that side to bump those up a little so they get to me quicker. So it is possible one has been opened. It is also possible one has not been opened. So what we could do, if the board is so inclined, in the motion, we could also include, if a complaint has not been opened against the funeral establishment or whomever the board wishes, one can be opened as well, assuming one has not already been.
I just I have trouble finding an apprentice in this case because as an apprentice, you're reliant on the funeral director who you are serving the apprenticeship under to advise you on things like this. And I have a tough time finding that apprentice at this point. I would be okay with, and I'm not making a motion yet, I'm just saying I would be okay with maybe a letter of warning, maybe probably even a letter of instruction in this case. But I think that we need to definitely ensure that if there's a fine here, that it's paid by the establishment and or the sponsoring funeral director. She has more information.
Yes, as always, Lisa knows.
Thank you, Lisa.
So there is a complaint that is open against that establishment that's coming down the pipe, just has not been referred to legal yet. So if the board was inclined that if one was not open to open one, don't even have to worry about that. One is open.
Okay. I may have a motion, but I'm gonna let Mr. Lee talk first.
Echo your sentiments exactly. I'm sure the apprentice is in a learning stage. Should have had his sponsor funeral director there. I think he was doing what he was told. And to me, I don't even really like the letter of warning, maybe a letter of instruction. And that way he'll kind of know next time, or his sponsor will, what he needs to do.
So this is a question for council. So should we table this until the establishment is before the board and just hear both at the same time?
That's an option. You're certainly inclined to do that. I guess the advantage of doing that is you presumably get the establishment's side of the story as well. which is ironic because I'm assuming the reason I don't have the establishment complaint yet is because they haven't responded. So if that comes to me without a response, I'll reach out and get what information I can. I think it could go either way. For purposes of moving this one along, I think we could, the information we have in front of us, the respondent in this case, the apprentice, replied, provided the information. I think the board would be perfectly fine to go ahead and make a decision, be that letter of instruction, closure, whatever the board feels is appropriate, or it could also be tabled. But I think as far as taking this complaint at face value with the information we have, I think we have enough to come to a conclusion and a decision, but that's your call, not mine.
I agree with that. I mean, the apprentice responded, and obviously, hopefully in the allotted time, because you didn't notate anything different. And they did state here that they were informed by their managers, which I'm assuming is their sponsor, funeral director. So I would make a motion to change it from a $500 civil penalty to a letter of instruction and authorize the consent order or formal hearing if necessary. I guess we don't have to do that in that case, but.
Right. We would not with the letter of instruction. That would resolve it. And Mr. Wheeler, just to hopefully, I may be reading into the concern that you may have of separating them out. I will, when the establishment is up on a legal report, I will make a note that this links this case back to this one, so there's consistency.
I guess my only concern is not knowing what either the establishment or the funeral director in charge has to say. Through my years of experience, every now and then you will get an apprentice that seems to be gung-ho and they think they know it all. And I'm a little concerned, and I'd like to, I guess, see what the funeral director, and is there an issue of tug of war between an apprentice and a funeral director? Because every now and then you get someone and they seem to know it all more than you do. And that's my only concern, I guess, is not knowing what the other side has to say.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Nash.
Second.
You said-
I
Okay,
second.
okay, I didn't hear it. Okay. Have a motion to change legal's recommendation of $500 to a letter of instruction, right, Mr. Nash?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was second by Mr. Lee. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Pose as same.
No.
Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-069-511. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on November 20th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. An application for change of ownership was not submitted to the board within the time required by law. Based on the lease agreement dated January 1, 2023 and December 19th, 2023. Respondent establishment changed ownership at some point during this time. Respondent submitted the change of ownership on November 12th, 2025. Respondent replied stating that they can only assume that the previous managing funeral director did not complete the ownership change in core. They are leasing and have not bought the business, building, or property yet. Based on the above, we'd recommend a $500 civil penalty authorized via consent order in formal hearing if necessary.
Any questions?
Just real quick to help me, I may be missing. So they technically sometime in that 2-year period, business exchanged hands and neither notified the board they were coming off and the other one didn't say they were coming on?
That appears to be the case. Kind of contextually, I think the inspector pulled the lease agreement to see that a new name had popped up on there some point in calendar year 2023. We're not able to pinpoint exactly when that was, evidently, because that would have been included if we had. But yeah, the change of ownership, which is required to be submitted with, I believe the rules call for 10 days, was submitted roughly 2 years late, depending on when that date was of when that change occurred.
That was my question. They have submitted an ownership change.
They have now as of November 12th of 2025.
And okay. What about okay. I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Lee. That we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-068-111. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on November 13th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. Respondent establishment underwent a change of ownership in August 2023. However, respondent establishment did not submit a change of ownership application as required by statute. At this time, respondent still has not submitted a change of ownership application. Respondent replied stating only that they had not made any ownership changes in 2023 and reached out for clarification. Likewise, respondent had not updated the individual in charge as corporate contact representative as required by applicable rules. Legal contacted respondent's attorney to inform them of what had occurred. For context, respondent establishment was previously owned by, as an example, ABC Inc. prior to 2023. In 2023, respondent establishment switched ownerships to a different but similarly named corporation, becoming XYZ Inc. While the same individuals may have been in control of ABC Inc. and XYZ Inc., since the corporate entity and personhood changed legally, this still functions as a change of ownership. Therefore, a change of ownership application is still due and remains outstanding at this time. Based on the above, we'd recommend a $1,000 civil penalty and require the establishment to submit an application, required supporting documents, and payment of fees to the board office within 30 days. Authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
This sounds like the other one, the previous complaint.
Very
Very
similar.
similar.
Has anything, I noticed this was open November 13th and we're hearing it 2 months later. Were you able to advise us if anything's been done up to this point?
They have not. So when this was referred to me, the response we got was, I didn't change ownerships. Can you give me any idea of what's happening? And they, of course, did not leave a callback number. So I couldn't speak to them directly. Their attorney I've worked with before, have a good relationship with. I reached out to him, who I think like half of Tennessee was sick over the holiday season, myself included. So I think currently he is playing catch up right now, figuring out kind of where they are. But I've explained to him that even if it's all the same people in control of ABC Inc. and XYZ Inc., that corporate personhood changing is still an ownership change, because legally speaking, those entities are considered individuals. A different person, corporate person, now owns this respondent establishment. So I explained that to him. I think there is some information forthcoming, because I know there's a companion complaint with another similar location involving these specific individuals on the pre-need side, where some more information has come forward. I got that information on Friday. So what I is to answer your question, Mr. Lee, as typical, I'm long-winded and dance around a little bit, but it has not been submitted. It has not been paid at this point. There may or may not be information coming that would change what's here, but with what I have in the file on this complaint, this day, ready to go on the board meeting, this is things as I know them. If it is something that comes forward where they change, I would bring it back for represent. But at this time, the information we have shows changed ownership in 2023, did not submit the change of ownership form or pay that fee, and the individual in charge to be contacted as the corporate representative has not been updated. Those two things I can say with complete certainty.
And last thing, I know, like Mr. Nash said, it's very similar to the prior case. What's the fine difference, the logic behind that?
The key between these two is that, I mean, they both deal with pretty similar amounts of time. The key difference is that the respondent in number 7 has submitted that and paid it at this point as of November 12th, 2025. The respondent in 8 has not. That is still outstanding.
Thank you, sir. I'll make a motion to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Motion by Mr. Lee, second by Ms. Allen, that we accept council recommendation. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. Motion carried.
Next complaint is complaint number 2025-064951. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on October 20th, 2025. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. On October 2nd, 2025, the board received a letter from respondent establishment's manager informing them that he was resigning his position as manager of the establishment. On October 9th, 2025, the change of manager application was completed, naming a new individual as manager. However, a phone conversation with the previous manager indicated that he had not been at respondent establishment or worked there in any capacity since the end of August 2025. During the inspection, the inspector examined 25 funeral files for September and October 2025 and found no evidence that the previous manager had worked in the capacity of a licensed funeral director or embalmer, but that the individual who had been named as the new manager was listed as the funeral director of record. Respondent replied, stating that they never received written or verbal notice that the old manager had resigned at any time in August or September. Respondent stated their first notification came secondhand on October 2nd, 2025, when an associate contacted them after receiving a call from the board office. Respondent stated this was the first time they had been informed that the previous manager was no longer employed with the respondent establishment. Respondent stated they did not receive direct confirmation from the former manager until October 3rd, 2025, when he emailed a copy of the letter he had previously sent to the board. Again, respondent indicated they had no knowledge that he had resigned. Respondent further provided that the previous manager's final compensation was issued on August 30th, 2025, and that he never indicated that this represented his final day or that he would be leaving the establishment. Respondent stated as soon as they were made aware of his resignation on October 3rd, the change of manager application was submitted on October 9th, 2025. Based on the above, we would recommend a civil penalty of $750, authorized via consent order, informal hearing if necessary. And just to unpack that a little bit, 'cause reading it, I think the details could be a little confusing. So basically the good news is that the funeral director in charge was not committing unlicensed activity. We're good there. Don't have to worry about that. All 25 files, the person who is now manager of this establishment, properly licensed, everything checked out there, we're good. The issue is that evidently from sometime in August to October 9th, when that change of manager came in, this respondent establishment was operating without a manager in place, which according to respondent, they were not aware of. So essentially we're looking at a little over a month period without an active manager. To their credit, when they claimed they were made aware of this on October 3rd, they got that in the new manager update within 7 days as required, but that still does not absolve the 5, 6, 7 week period where there was no manager of the establishment. So that is the reason for the recommended $750 civil penalty.
I have a question for council. I guess it opens sort of you have an employee don't show up for 6 or 7 weeks and you still think they work for you. I have lots of issues with that, especially your manager. And I think most of us in funeral service, anyone who requires that much time off usually has to submit that in writing to get approval. So I'm questioning, they had to know. Because if I have an employee that don't show up for 3 days, I'm questioning where they're at, if they're on the schedule to work. So there's my question, on the respondent. My other thing is, how did you come up with the $750 penalty?
Yeah, and on the first point, I think Mr. Gribble would probably be better served saying this, but so take this with a grain of salt. Don't take this as complete fact. I think what could be occurring with that is they have managers that are a little more remote, which, there could, of course, always be an argument as to whether you can do your duties as a manager, whether you're at the location often or not. Not a discussion for this complaint at this time, I think, but my guess is that's what respondent would say as to why that didn't include them in earlier. That's also why I included because the respondent acknowledges that the last compensation that former manager received was for August 30th, 2025. So likewise, to your point, Mr. Wheeler, if the check's not clearing, I may not assume that they're just doing some pro bono work for me, but and for the $750, so this was a tricky one because I know if you look at the disciplinary history, respondent has had a lot of problems with managers and things of this nature. The 750 is a little bit of what we've seen in those previous complaints, is that not only would there be a problem with managers changing hands or things like that, that application would always come in late. Here, it's late insofar as a manager change should have occurred, but when they claimed they were made aware on October 3rd, they did get that in within the 7 days. I looked at that as a little bit of a mitigating factor. If the board disagrees with that, that is perfectly fine, and I would have no objection to that. So that's the reason for the 750 reduced down a little bit, because we are at least seeing improvement of we're getting our change of manager applications in within the 10 days required. But still, this respondent establishment continues to have problems with maintaining managers and that those be in place from start to finish.
They've had, so that was just counting. They've had 7 complaints since
Yeah, if you,
2023. And we dealt with a similar situation this past year with 26 funeral cremation services with a licensed funeral director. But 5 of the 7 are involving either issues with managers or unlicensed, aiding and abetting an unlicensed person. So that leads me to my next question. There's, I don't know, that's 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, about, let's just call it $10,000 in the last 3 years of fines. Have we been paid all those fines? Have they paid all the payments?
They have.
easier to operate, just paying the fines and not have a
Yeah, I mean,
manager.
I think so we obviously see that it seems like the offense continues. The offense continues. When I was a police officer, it was, misdemeanors. You have reason to believe the offense will continue was a mitigating factor. And if we were going to do certain things, I don't know what we can do to encourage this establishment to make sure that they're operating within, what's required as under their license and with the rules and regulations and laws. And so I'm guessing that in 2023, when they had this unlicensed establishment, was meaning that they were maybe advertising before they opened.
Yes, if I recall that one, I believe one of our inspectors was in an area just doing their usual rounds that day, came across a location that had a hearse with some advertising on it, and I think they had some pamphlets that had already been circulated before they were licensed.
And so, I mean, this is from the beginning.
Ms. Nash, can I interject just
Sure.
real
I'm sorry.
quick? And no, and maybe you can answer this, Mr. Bryan, or not. These previous violations look familiar. Was this the establishment where we
Of the
allowed
reinspection.
unannounced inspections?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so we are keeping.
This
an eye-
was a routine inspection. This was not one of the unannounced re-inspections, because that was already passed, correct?
That's correct. That window of time, I believe, was for a calendar year. So we are past that calendar year when we can do the unannounced, just pop in. So this was on the routine.
I feel like the penalty is not really going to help the situation. And I don't, I guess I'm not sure I feel like it should be more of a higher penalty, but I also feel like there should be something else combined with that penalty to ensure that they are, doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because we've already had issues just in the last 3 years, and except for Miss Allen, we're already here dealing with this previously.
So one thing I would let the board know as well, I think 99.9 out of 100 times, we can kind of address the issue with our usual, consent order, letter of warning, whatever it may be. So I do encourage the board to be creative, that at the end of the day, whatever is in a consent order, if they agree to it, they're bound to that. So this is just an example, throwing it out there. You do not have to approve that. If the board feels inclined to raise a civil penalty, definitely please feel free to do that. We could also require, every 2 months, every month, they send in a report to the board that we confirmed our manager is still working for us. Here is a sheet they have signed. Here is, what steps are you taking to ensure that if there is managerial turnover, you have that ready to go within 10 days as required by law? That's just an example. Don't feel bound to that, but
Is it out of the reach of the board's authority to, if we raise the civil penalty, that we say that the next time this occurs, you're looking at a 30-day closure, suspension of your license?
I think I can, that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be in the consent order. 'Cause I think that may be tricky to word in there as enforceable, but I'm more than happy to write a separate letter communicating to respondent, send out the consent order for whatever the board decides, and says, just to make you aware, the board has let me know the next time this is a problem again, I will inform them this is the same establishment. We're back with the same problems, and they have discussed at that time a 30-day suspension of license.
Almost like a letter of instruction in a way.
Yeah.
Penalty plus the letter.
Yeah.
So the letter needs to be included in the motion.
Yes.
All right. I will make a motion to increase the penalty to $1,000 and the letter of warning explaining those details. And I would not necessarily, I think we need to, it could be a temporary establishment license suspension. I don't think we need to limit it to a number of days. Because this is obviously an issue. Are we within our scope to do that?
Yes. So let me, I'll read you back the language I've got for the letter, and if I need to tweak it, just let me know. But essentially, that civil penalty of $1,000 authorized via consent order, formal hearing if necessary, a letter of warning indicating that if respondent appears before this board again for the same or similar outstanding issues, the board will discuss on the record a suspension of license.
I think we add within calendar, 1 year from the date of this. Before, if they appear before the board within 1 year of the date of this letter, something to that effect.
Okay.
And that's my motion. Do I need to say it again, or are we good?
I think you're good. I think we got there.
Thank you.
You all have had to deal with enough motions today.
We got a motion on the floor to increase the penalty to $1,000 with the letter of warning.
Second.
By Mr. Nash and second by Mr. Wheeler. Ready to vote?
Aye.
Opposed has the same. Motion carried. Number 10.
Number 10 is complaint number 2025-064971. This case was administratively opened following a routine inspection conducted on October 22nd. During the course of this routine inspection, the inspector observed the following. 1, the funeral director and embalmer license the funeral director and embalmer license of respondent establishment expired on September 30th, 2025. It did not meet the requirements to reinstate until October 2nd, 2025. During the unlicensed period, the individual who is manager of respondent establishment continued to act in the capacity of manager of respondent establishment. Respondent stated the manager's licenses have been reinstated and that they have reinforced internal calendaring and monitoring procedures to prevent this from reoccurring. 2, multiple caskets in the selection room had prices displayed at a different selling price than what was shown on the casket price list. 3, multiple caskets were displayed and priced in the selection room that were not listed on the casket price list. Respondents stated they have thoroughly reviewed and updated their pricing cards to ensure they are fully aligned with their general price list and casket price list, and all caskets displayed are now accurately included on the casket price list. And finally, 4, at the time of the inspection, the inspector found the ventilation exhaust fan in the preparation room to not be in working condition. Respondent stated the ventilation exhaust fan has been fully repaired and is now in working order. Respondent stated at the time of the inspection, it was already in the process of being serviced and that this was communicated to the inspector. Based on the above, we recommend a $1,250 civil penalty, authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
Motion to accept recommendation.
Second.
Motion to accept council recommendation by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Lee. Ready to vote?
Aye.
Opposed, as same. Motion carried.
Complaint number 2025-066361. And Ms. Allen, I'm always good for at least one novel, one long complaint each. So that is this one. Complainant, yeah. Complainant, wife of the decedent, alleged unprofessional conduct on behalf of respondent establishment. Complainant specifically identifies one individual employed by respondent that she was primarily worked with throughout the arrangement process. First, complainant stated that she gave a copy of the marriage certificate to the employee and that all she needed to do was copy the information from the marriage certificate onto the death certificate. However, much of the information included on the death certificate was incorrect, and that at the time of the complaint, she still had not received a correct death certificate. Likewise, complainant stated that the visitation book and cards were not prepared by the time the visitation began, and some people were not able to sign the book or receive a card. Finally, complainant stated that the employee presented themselves to be a funeral director when they were at the establishment on August 13th, 2025, and that she learned later that the employee was only an apprentice. Respondent provided a lengthy response and stated primarily, 1, the decedent's demographic information for the death certificate was discussed with complainant, reviewed by multiple people, and reviewed by complainant before leaving that day. At this time, complainant did not identify any errors. 2, the employee stated they were not scheduled to work the memorial service, but that the funeral attendants were scheduled instead. However, because they knew complainant was upset for a litany of other reasons, the employee came in to try and help with anything they could. The employee stated complainant was very rude and stated, quote, she did not want me there, end quote, and continued to speak ill of her, stating that she was, quote, incompetent, end quote, it was unbelievable the mistakes she had made, end quote. The employee stated they brought all the register book packages and memorial folder options they had at 9 a.m., the morning of the visitation occurring at 10 a.m. The employee stated complainant picked out a book, but was not happy with the memorial folder choices. The employee stated complainant continued to berate her about the mistakes made involving the death certificate and for various things unrelated to the services provided. Following this interaction, the employee remained in their office so as to not further upset complainant and filled out the amendment form at this time to have the corrections made to the death certificate, and it was mailed off the same day. The employee stated they received the corrected death certificate on November 10th, 2025, and that it was mailed to complainant. Third, the employee stated that they never introduced themselves as a licensed funeral director and provided that they are a funeral director apprentice registered with the state in March of 2025. However, when describing the services provided, the employee stated the following, quote, I stated simply that I would be helping with arrangements. I never at any point stated that I was a funeral director, nor gave any title for my employment. My coworker was in the office approximately 20 feet down the hall from the arrangement room for the entirety of our meeting. After introductions, we discussed and reviewed decedent's demographic information for the death certificate, the information for the obituary, and discussed planning a memorial service. All 4 of us reviewed the death certificate information sheet, the written obituary I prepared for complainant, and the contract before she left for the day. On August 15, 2025, quote, during our 2-hour meeting, we contacted the insurance company together. We waited for the insurance company to fax the necessary forms and complainant signed them. On August 20th, 2025, quote, I met with complainant to review the urn she selected, details for the service, and to collect payment for the service, end quote. Based on the above, it appears that a mistake was made on the death certificate. Complainant did not bring the error to respondent's attention at the initial meeting, but when it was brought to their attention, an amendment form was sent to Vital Records soon after. Based on the information provided, it does not appear there was a delay in putting out the book and memorial cards. While it does seem respondent waited until the morning of for complainant to make the selections, it stands to reason those items would not be available prior to visitation starting when they had not yet been selected by complainant. However, based on the information provided, it does appear that the employee, who admits to not being a licensed funeral director and being only an apprentice, has committed unlicensed activity. From the information provided, it appears that the non-licensed employee handled most matters with complainant, including the arrangement conference, collecting information for the death certificate, filling out the death certificate, getting financial information from the insurance company, and reviewing selected services that complainant had selected. The employee offers the explanation that a licensed coworker, quote, was in the office approximately 20 feet down the hall from the arrangement room, end quote, which further suggests that a licensed individual was not physically present during the arrangement process. While it appears other licensees were involved at various parts during this matter and were available for help as needed, the apprentice employee appears to have been the primary individual handling the arrangements and routinely conducted license activity throughout with, at times, minimal oversight from licensees. Based on the above, would recommend a $750 civil penalty against respondent establishment and a letter sent to the apprentice and supervisor referenced by the apprentice regarding unlicensed activity. Authorized via consent order and formal hearing if necessary.
Questions?
So for everyone at home, direct supervision does not mean down the hallway or in the next building. We've explained that, but one more time for the folks in the back.
I'm about to throw a wrench in some things here, so just hold on a second. Thank you for your very detailed information. We appreciate that as always. And maybe you need some water or take a breath if you need to. Does it say in the statute that the funeral director has to physically be present with the apprentice while making arrangements or conducting, while, I guess, performing funeral director duties? I know that some of ours are, you have a way that you say that the statutes are written, and I can't remember the term that you use, but
Yeah, let me pull the statute up real quick and I'll just read through it.
Mr. Bryant too, and regardless of what the statute actually reads.
Sure.
As we talked about in the previous, one of the earlier complaints, it is the job of the supervisor or the sponsoring or supervising funeral director to be aware and, supervise what the apprentice is doing. So, I'm not disputing anything. I just would like to know, just for future reference, just in that statute.
Sure. And I know I had this one written down. Mr. Gribble and I discussed it prior, and of course, when I need it, it is eluding me. So searching for it real quick.
Don't spend too much time on it. It's okay.
So at the end of the day, I do think with this one, it comes down to that the apprentice funeral director appears to, based on the way the complaint reads, not only from the complainant, but from the respondent, is that they essentially handled this case from start to finish.
Yeah.
That understand that they've got a licensed individual to oversee them, they say 20 feet down the hall. But that at the end of the day, the apprentice, who is not yet licensed as a funeral director, was the, I guess, point of contact.
All right, I make a motion to approve, or excuse me, to accept council recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nash, second by Ms. Allen to approve council recommendation. Ready to vote?
Aye.
Opposed, that's the same. Motion carried.
All right, and last one is complaint number 2025-069-401. Complainant's mother of the decedent alleged unprofessional conduct against respondent establishment. Specifically, complainant stated that their son was found on December 1st, 2024, quote, surrounded by blood with a ruptured eye and a C branded into the side of his scalp, end quote. Complainant claimed that a Florida funeral establishment violated Florida statutes by pronouncing the decedent as having died from a fentanyl overdose. Complainant claimed that a toxicology report reported no fentanyl. Complainant alleged that respondent establishment assisted the Florida establishment in, quote, continuing to cover up a murder, end quote. However, complainant does not provide any information as to how this purportedly occurred or how respondent was involved. Respondent replied confirming that the decedent died in Florida on December 1st, 2024, and provided that when the decedent died, the family contacted them wanting the decedent to be buried in Tennessee next to other relatives. Respondent explained that when the medical examiner initially released the body, they contacted the funeral home in Florida to embalm and prepare the body, and were going to drive down and pick up the decedent. However, before they picked up the decedent, complainant requested another autopsy to be done. And after the second autopsy was completed, respondent picked up the decedent. Respondent stated the decedent's eye was not ruptured and that a C had not been branded into his scalp. Complainant and other family members came to Tennessee, made funeral arrangements, and had a graveside service. Respondent stated a few weeks go by and complainant does not pay the outstanding funeral bill and ultimately files bankruptcy and begins sending several chain emails claiming the decedent had been murdered and how they should contact the sheriff's office to investigate. Respondent theorized that complainant is having difficulty accepting the death of their child and suggested that if any foul play were suspected, any individuals in Florida who had investigated it would have come forward, and that after two autopsies neither suggested foul play. Respondent denied any collusion with the Florida establishment in any way, shape, or form. Based on the above, complainant does not provide proof to show respondent violated any applicable laws or rules. Therefore, we recommend closure.
Motion to accept recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nash to accept council recommendation, second by Mr. Lee. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. Motion carried. Mr. Bryant, as always, this board thanks you on a job well done.
Thank you.
With the absence of Mr. Gribble, the legal report will be done by, the executive director report will be done by Ms. Bohannon.
Thank you. For the executive, for the executive director's report, legislative update, our office hasn't received any communication concerning any legislative updates. The license issued as is read. These are the licenses that have been issued from December 6, 2025 through January 9th, 2026. Closed establishments as of January 13th, 2026. There are 2 Pool Funeral Home and Cremation Services at Fight Chapel and Pool Serenity Funeral Home and Cremation Services. For the disciplinary report, there's one that has been reported to the board as of November 25th, 2025. November of 2025, sorry. And for the complaint report, there are a grand total of 65 complaints currently open with the funeral board, 28 funeral director and embalmer complaints, and 37 establishments. Are there any questions concerning the executive director report?
I've got a few. Motion to accept executive director's report.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lee, second by Mr. Nash to accept the executive director's report. Call for a vote.
Aye.
Both are the same. Motion carried. Ms. Bohannon, do we have any individuals or establishment appearing before us today?
There are no individuals or establishments.
Okay. Do we have any other people that are scheduled to, that have signed up to speak on any
No.
agenda item?
No, there were nobody else that was scheduled.
Okay. With that, any new business? That being
There-
said,
There's no new business either.
can we get a
Sorry.
motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nash, second by Mr. Wheeler, that we adjourn. Want to thank you all so much for this being my first day. Meeting adjourned.